About a year ago, I purchased all of this electrical stuff because we were about to start working on the shed, except we didn't. I don't know why. We started working on the framing or whatnot, but we're back in winter again and it's much nicer to work inside. So we're going to finally be setting up all the electrical system for the shed, except we're probably going to break the electrical into a couple episodes. We're going to be taking care of the walls first, so basically outlets and switches and maybe the fuse box, and we'll take care of the more complex stuff in a later episode. So let's get into it. Passing the cable through these corner holes can be a little bit of a pain, but the technique that we ended up using is that we run this little cord through it, and it's pretty easy to pass the cord. And then once we made it, passed it through, we basically tied it to the tip of the cable, and then we were able to pull it that way. Another potential tip is you can probably bend a little bit the tip of the cable, and if the hole is big enough, you can basically shove it in and use the tip as a hook to find the 90-degree turn. And then once you have it, then you can start pushing it and then you can make it through. But I found that makes more sense when the hole is a little bit bigger. As you can see, we're almost done with this wall, but before I talk about that, let me show you a couple cool things. I got these LEDs for my gloves, and I got this LED for my beanie. I actually got this for Marcella for Christmas, and I actually like them so much that I decided to get some for myself, and they are actually working out very nicely for working on the electrical in these dark corners and whatnot. But anyway, let's talk about the electrical. Let's begin with the wiring. We are using 12-2 wires. These typically are meant for a 20 amp breaker, and we're basically running them everywhere. Another quick thing here is you might see that we're going a little bit crazy on the outlets, and the reason for that is because this is intended to be a shop at the end of the day, so we want to have outlets available everywhere. The last thing we want to do is be running cables through the shop and whatnot. Finally, let me talk to you a little bit about these bits. This is an auger bit, and this is a blade spade bit. These are from Diablo, and I've started to become a real fan of Diablo bits, blades, and all that kind of stuff. What I found with the router bits is that I was buying the cheap ones. They would keep on breaking and breaking and breaking, and at the end of the day, I broke so many that it would have been cheaper for me to buy the Diablo bit that has lasted up to now, and it hasn't broken. So I highly recommend all this Diablo stuff. And finally, I have this little 90-degree converter, or whatever it might be. So basically, you put this on your drill, you put the bit at the end, and this allows you to basically drill at 90 degrees. And to be honest, without this tool, I would not have been able to make these corners. So yeah, that's what we are. Let's keep going, and we can talk about this a little bit more later.
We are busy at work with the electrical wiring, and you can notice we're also doing the interior insulation, and that's because we don't have to pass inspection in the shed, so we can do it in one go. But this installation has a pretty funny story, so let's take a trip down memory lane to May 10, 2022 and check it out. Have you ever wondered what happens when your local Lowe's closes a store and you're building a house? Let me show you. So welcome to our house. So we have some Vitos in here, we have some Rockwool over here. And what happened was that the store was at least 50% off. So we got all the Rockwool that we could get. We have a beautiful double door for our shed. You get a peek at the bedroom with some more Rockwool over there. We pretty much got everything we could bring into the house. So we have more Rockwool on that side of the island and more Rockwool on this side of the island. And then more Rockwool here on our living room. And of course, we have some more here in our official shop / home office / warehouse. So we have saved up about $4,000 in materials. We also got some tools and Lexel and nails, and we're just trying to organize all these last purchases we have done. But the interesting thing is we're still months away from using them. We're just starting season 2. So let's jump into the future and see what we're doing with them. So that was the bittersweet story of our favorite Lowe's closing its doors. At the end, we got the installation at half price, so even if we had to store it for 2 years, it was worth the effort. And on that last clip that you saw us bringing the installation and putting it in the mechanical room, that U-Haul truck that you see in there, it's the one where we got stuck in the snow. So if you want to see that story, we have it on season 1 of the shed.
We're in the process of making some holes for the ERV duct that we're going to be installing here shortly. But I want to show you real quick an easy way to make these bore holes with these bore bits or whatever the name might be. So first off, you might know that if you're using a drill and you have it at max strength and you use one of these bore bits, it'll eventually catch on to the wood, and it'll just turn so fast that it can easily rip your hand off. And I'm not kidding about that. So it's very important to have this second handle so that you can hold it with both hands. Second feature that hopefully your drill will have is a clutch. This way you can adjust the clutch in such a way that the bore bit tears enough wood out, but if it were to catch, the clutch will get to the maximum limit and then it'll start slipping. So take a look at how I've been doing it.
close to being done with this roofing episode. So here we have the ERV, that's our next step. It's going to go on this cavity up here, but we already have the penetrations and the ducts for the intake and the outtake of the air. These ones are already installed on the outside, and we call this affectionately the anaconda. You can probably see why they are usually covered with this insulation. So we have that going, and then if you keep going this way, these bays are empty because Hector is going to talk about all the electrical details. The electrical panel is going to come here. We have the penetration for the solar panels coming that way. And then coming this way, this is the cabling for the speakers. So you can start to see why we are calling this the clamshell. They are going to be mounted on the ceiling. We have 4 of them. Then we also have all the lights going, as you can see here. And then we have mounted our TV. And we also have the light switch on that corner. So Hector is going to do some hacks so we can test all these lights, and once we know that they are good, we can start filling with insulation. On the walls you can see that we already began with the insulation because the wiring is pretty much done. And for these walls we're using comfort batt. If you remember, we use comfort board from Rockwool for the exterior insulation on the roof. But since it's interior, then we're using comfort batt. This one is designed for the perimeter walls, but on the inside of the house. And that's pretty much what we have going on.
I have finished wiring all the lamps on this side of the shed. As you can see, space is tight, so I can only test this side. And in order to do that, I'm going to be using this little quick hackery. It's basically just an RV plug, and I'll probably be talking a little bit more about this on the next episode. But this is obviously temporary. There's no breaker or anything. As you can see, the wires are relatively naked. But I just want this to test and verify that everything is working before we fill it with insulation, Marex, drywall. The worst thing that could happen is to not test it, cover it, and then find out that it doesn't work. So let's plug it in and let's see if it works. Nice. So the lights work. So that means at least we have electricity. The breaker on the power Bluetooth is not tripping. So now we need to make sure that the switch is also working. So there it is. The lights are coming off. They're coming on. So things are looking good. So that means we can probably cover this with insulation and move on to this side.
Give you a few tips for installing Rockwool, especially in the ceiling. So first off, I recommend using a baseball cap, and that is because this is going to prevent any debris from falling through your glasses. The second thing is make sure you wear either a mask or one of these protective sleeves to cover your mouth. And then when you cut your panels, make sure to cut them almost to the right size. Give them at most 1/4 inch extra. And that's because if you cut them larger, then they are going to have a belly and they won't stay flat on the installation. And then one final thing, before you get your panels up on the ladder, I recommend just shaking them. Give them a few taps against the ladder. So that's to get as much debris off as possible so it falls on the ground instead of falling on your face. We are done with the insulation, but before I show you how it's going to look on the inside,
Let's take advantage of this cold to look through the thermal camera and find any weaknesses that we might have. So let's switch to that. There we are. We are in predator mode. I turned on the heat inside the shed so that we can more easily see stuff. Also, one thing that's kind of important when using thermal cameras, make sure that you don't have the sunlight hitting whatever you're looking at, because the sun will make a tremendous difference in what you're looking at. So I can immediately notice right here the roof is nice and homogeneous color-wise. So that means our roof exterior insulation, it's doing an amazing job. And that's really the reason why we do exterior insulation. We are also going to be adding exterior insulation to this shed. But what we're doing right now is mostly trying to figure out if we have any blatant leaks. So I'm walking here on the mountain, so I gotta be careful. So here we have our first, I guess, interesting detail. You can see that bright line with lines going in between the studs up and down. That's our blocking. So that's telling us that we're losing a lot of heat through there, but I don't really see anything abnormal about it. This will be taken care of for sure when we add the exterior insulation. And then once again, the roof is looking amazing, except of course you can see the skylight right there in the center of the roof. Let's continue walking around. Here on the angle, same pattern, you can see the blocking, and that blocking is the one that's causing us to lose a lot of the heat. Oh, interesting, here we have some interesting heat loss right here in this stud, so I'm gonna go take a look at it. Maybe our insulation is not as tight. Let's continue walking. So here we are at the front of the shed. You can see here the windows, and our door is extraordinarily leaky. It is not finished, but obviously the perimeter, you can see a big heat loss. So we're probably going to have to do something about it. There you can see the windows up top, the door, and then let me back up. So here we see the same pattern. You can see the blocking on the wall. These two big items that you see right here, those are our windows. And the reason you see black in here is because we put some extra insulation there at the moment, so it's not on the way. But overall, it's looking pretty good. You can probably also tell that heat rises, so it's cooler down below than higher. So that's where we are. Once we add the exterior insulation, this is going to be looking incredible. So let's go inside and let's finish this up.
Well, as you can see, we have all the insulation already installed and it fits amazing here. When you get dry in, it's good. When you get dry in, insulation and a heater is just amazing. It's super cozy. But let's focus on the important stuff. So, as you know, the shed is our learning area, lab kind of thing. And here is one lesson learned. You're going to notice we have all those green strips of zip panels or the soft floor. And the reason for that is because the LVLs are taller than the 2x12s. So what we should have done was rip the LVLs to the same height of the 2x12, so we wouldn't have to do all of that. But well, we have learned it now. We did it like that on the main house and it turned out great. Continuing on the shed, we have all the lamps already installed, and you're going to notice also those boxes. Those are for the speakers, and we learned that trick from our friend Aaron at Miller's Construction. So here is what we're doing. We have the box. And the idea is to get a good air seal before we install Marex, our vapor barrier. So what we're doing is in all the joints, we are applying big stretch as well as the hole where the cable comes in. And that's just so we can ensure a good seal before we apply the vapor barrier. And with that, well, you're going to notice we have some cables here, the panel, the pipe for the solar, but that's a sneak peek for a future episode. So, well, that's what we have for you today. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider giving us a like, subscribing to our channel, and we'll see you on the next one. Thank you. Bye-bye.